Hey guys, this is Danny.
And this is Jenny Fuentes.
And this is Dear Husband, Dear Wife.
Yes, it is a podcast that is about an imperfect couple keeping it 100% real. Where we talk about dating, marriage, and sex.
Yeah, all of it.
Yes, it is unscripted
Mm-hmm.
and it's centered in the truth.
Yes, we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the messed up, the shady, the pretty things, the beautiful things. All of it.
All.
Jam-packed.
Yes. So thank you for tuning in and
We
get
hope.
ready.
Yeah.
We hope what?
I don't know. We just hope. We just hope.
We just hope that you will enjoy the episode that you're about to hear.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Enjoy.
Hello. Welcome to Dear Husband, Dear Wife. This is another episode of Dear Husband and Dear Wife with my wife, Jenny.
Hey, everyone.
And me.
This is Jenny Fuentes.
This is Danny Fuentes.
And welcome back. It's been a while since I've been on an episode. I was recovering from the one and only vid.
The COVID.
And I am glad to be back.
Yeah. We're finally doing this again. Apologies to everyone for not being consistent on that regard. As Jenny said.
We've been consistent, like in the sense that we have.
It feels like it's been forever.
Well, you and I haven't recorded an episode, yeah. So.
But it's been, it's just, Jenny had COVID and, it just felt like a lot of other things were getting in the way.
Yeah, prior to that, I was really sick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, welcome back. Today we have a good episode that we want to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to do with vowels.
Yeah.
Literally. The famous 2-word that you hear in almost every single wedding. What is it, baby? I what?
Just say it, babe.
I do. Come on. Humor me.
I do. So we all say I do when we get married.
Yep.
Because it makes sense. You're in the moment. Everything is beautiful. You only see clear skies in the future.
Butterflies in the sky.
But your promise in the altar on the wedding day is not proven then, but it's proven in your darkest moments of marriage. How do you still say I do after screw-ups and dark moments?
So for reference, we've been married 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And gone through various screw-ups in our marriage.
A lot.
Yep.
Unfortunately. On my end, 99.9%.
Well, I mean, yeah. Not a lot. I wouldn't say a lot.
If we could play back a
I guess
movie
the question is,
a
let's
movie
start
of
with
our
this.
marriage.
Let's define what a screw-up is. Okay, because anyone can define screw-up differently in their marriages. In our case, what we like to define as a screw-up is something very big, something very monumental, where either trust is broken or words are exchanged that are really hurtful. That's what I would describe as a screw-up. A screw-up wouldn't be, for me personally, I wouldn't label this a screw-up like, Jenny didn't listen to me today, or Danny didn't listen to me today. Like, that's not a screw up. To me, that's just like full on rebellion and need to work it out, and you gotta fix it. You gotta like change your attitude, and you gotta change, like, the person who's not listening to their husband or their wife has to change, right? Like, the spouse has to change and make some changes. But a screw up to me would be something that was very big And
what's big to us or what's not big to us doesn't mean it's not big to someone else.
well, granted,
how would we know that whoever is out there listening, didn't go through a divorce because at some point they got tired of this person wasn't doing this or that person wasn't doing that, or
again, back to the subject that we're talking about.
yeah. So we can't define what a quote unquote screw up is. Again, what's insignificant to us won't be insignificant to someone else.
Okay, but think about it this way.
So-
I do. Like, are you telling me someone calls it quits because they didn't wash the dishes or he didn't load up the dishwasher the way I wanted? Like, it's going to be... Like, that's the whole point. The whole point of I do is we're going to talk about this right now. Like, you can't call it
I wouldn't be
quits.
surprised. Well,
I know, but we can't call it just quits and just say,
you
okay, I guess
shouldn't call it quits. But unfortunately, in this world, calling it quits is a very normal thing to do now.
Okay, so I guess the point for this episode is define your screw up. Define what you call screw up. A big screw up.
Yeah.
In our case, a big screw up is when trust has been broken.
Which I've done.
Yes. And where words have been exchanged, very, very hard, painful words have been exchanged.
Which you and I have done.
Correct. So, how do we still continue to choose I do? How do we continue to still keep our vows to each other in those moments?
I don't know. I think it's just trying to get
Well,
past
let's
it.
be plain and honest. I mean, we're out here in the air. We might as well be sincere. We've basically put all of our dirty laundry out there. So you're more prone to want to call it quits
Yes, but
because
not...
of your shame.
Yes.
So for context, a lot of our issues have been because of either, as many of you guys have heard already in our testimony in Jenny's life, it has been...
Not our issues.
Well,
My issues.
Danny's major issue has been with pornography and masturbation. Okay? So, how does a wife stick around with a husband who has struggled with pornography and masturbation?
It's a question for you.
Exactly. So, I'm going to answer that question because I think it's important to answer that question. First and foremost, I think I would never tell a woman stick with it. But I do remember the vow that I made before the Lord. I take that vow much more serious than I take the vow that I made to Danny.
Okay. Let me stop you there.
Yes.
Everyone will at some point, or at least whoever's listening will at some point, women will want to know, where do you draw the line?
Perfect question.
At what point do you say, okay, this has been an issue for far too long. I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. It doesn't seem like he's changing. I'm throwing in the towel.
Okay.
And at what point do you say, okay, I'm not going to throw in the towel. I'm going to keep fighting for my husband because that's what a wife does, whatever the reason is. At what point do you draw the line?
Two things. Number one, question has to be not about me, but the question that I always ask Danny is, what are you going to do about this? And how are you going to make sure that it doesn't happen again? Like, what steps are you taking towards change? And am I seeing change? Am I seeing Danny try? Am I seeing Danny really, focus on his relationship with the Lord? Am I seeing Danny really make baby steps to change and try to make a difference? That's the first thing. If he wasn't, I think that would be a different story, if I'm honest with you. Because I have to see that. I have to see that change. And I have seen you make changes. Despite the fact that there's been regressions, it's like I have seen you make changes.
And as far as my moment of wanting to call it quits was never because, oh, that's just what everybody does. But it's because of the fact that, like, okay, I want to stop. I'd like to stop. And I find myself having difficulties trying to stop. which means that unfortunately, because of my actions, I keep dragging you with me.
Yes.
So that's when those desires to like want to call it quits comes in, because it's like, okay, how do I stop this? You know, it seems like me trying to kick this thing doesn't seem to be working as quickly as I'd like it to. Therefore, what's the next best thing to just cut it, just cut it off, chop it off, and that's calling it quits. As much as that's not like the best answer or the best,
Question
circumstance.
to you, would you consider that a cowardly move?
Personally, for me, no.
Why?
Because I would be embarrassed if I knew exactly how many times this has happened to us. Or better yet, I would be embarrassed to know exactly the number of times that I've done this to you. Where seeing all of my filth and all of my, disgusting crap just, shown, and to still say like, oh, I love my wife is almost impossible
So
to do, because of the fact that, like, I mean, everybody knows actions always speak louder, period. I mean, that's like everyone's thing.
yeah.
So that's understandable, and that's acceptable. Yes, at the end of the day, your actions speak louder. So I can't tell you, Jenny, of course you're my wife, I love you, but I'm doing completely the opposite of what that means.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I think, where does one draw the line? I think it's like there has to be momentum to want to change.
Yeah.
In your case, like, we sit down and we basically, like, I kind of lay down the law and say, like, hey, I need this from you if we want to make this work. Does that make sense? You have a choice of whether or not you want to do that or not. And thank God you do. You choose. You choose I do. That's the whole point of this conversation, is like choosing I do. That means I do means putting a lot of work in. It takes work from me.
Yeah.
It takes work from me to forgive. It takes work from me to not hold resentment. It takes work from me to actually practice 1 Corinthians 13, which is to practice out love and to live out love for you, which is kind, it's gentle, it takes work from me to do that, because all of my being wants to go crazy,
yeah.
All of my being wants to resort to, like, who knows what? Violence, I've learned I can be very violent. So, or like in me, I guess, like, all of my sinful nature wants to come out, right? In that sense. So, like, in your case, all of you wants to resort to shame. All of you wants to resort to guilt. All of you wants to resort to, I can't do this anymore, like wanting to give up. Not only on us, but even giving up on yourself, believing that you have the capacity to be able to make the change that you need in order to move forward. So it takes all of you to say, gosh, I'm going to give this another try. It takes all of you to say, okay, Lord, I'm going to recommit my life in a way that follows purity. I am also recommitting myself to my marriage and ensuring that I'm taking steps necessary to heal, to overcome whatever addiction, whatever, circumstance I'm in. So that's I do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think we live in a society where it's so easy to just want to say it's over. Like, I appreciate you asking the question, because, like, where do you draw the line, right? I think infidelity is one of those. Like, if your actions led to infidelity, that's a whole different other ballgame. I think I would have to honestly go through extensive therapy and figure out if this is the right fit for me and this is the right fit for you and I. I think that's one line that's kind of like, that can't be crossed, and if it's crossed, then we are looking at this point, am I choosing I do? Because now you really took that I do and you, like, literally dismantled it. You really, like, broke it. Does that make sense? You haven't broken I do yet. Yes, you've made choices, poor choices. Yes, you've done things that have been hurtful, but you haven't gone and taken that I do and slept with another woman. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But what about what about the women out there that actually have unfortunately been through that experience where their husbands have stepped out on their marriage?
I think that's
they're still together.
And there is restoration in marriages.
No.
There is. You know, I can't go ahead and tell someone, why are you still with him? Because the truth of the matter, it's like, gosh, it's such a complicated, it's way more complicated than people make it seem.
Yeah.
You know, I can't go ahead and tell someone you should break up or you should divorce him because he cheated on you. I can't. If you did that to me, part of me would say right now, yeah, I'll call it quits. But I won't know until I'm in the moment. And I pray to God that it's never
that's obviously the goal, to never be in that moment, just to find out what would actually happen.
Because the truth of the matter is, like, you have to look at a person's history. You have to look at their marriage. You have to look at what went wrong.
Yeah.
Things don't just happen.
Right, yeah.
Infidelity leads because of habits, decisions, actions that have been made in your marriage by both spouses. And it leads to that moment of infidelity. Does that make sense? A lot of times we forget that in our marriages we are one.
Yeah.
And we operate as two separate individuals. So to me, it's like we have to look at all of that before we can go ahead and say, we're going to call it quits.
No.
So choosing I do means putting in the work. For me, that's personally the way I see it.
I don't think it's just putting in the work, babe. I think it's more than just that. I think that's too easy to say. Gotta put in the work. Anybody can put in the work. I can put in the work if I wanted to, but at the end of the day, if I choose not to love you, then that's my decision. Yet I can still put in the work. You know? Because how many couples are out there that have been together or have been married for years and years and years, but have completely destroyed each other, but they're still together.
Yeah.
And there's no love. There's no connection anymore. There's just, all of that has completely faded away. And it's now just, it just makes sense. You know? So I don't think it's just putting in the work. Anybody can put in the work. If anybody wants to stop and change something about themselves, I'm sure they can. You know? But I think it's the desire to want to continue in that journey.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. And I think that's why today, like, divorce is a very, very common thing. Because it's like, I mean, how many times have you had dreams, Jenny, where you and I get divorced, but your dreams have changed so much from, oh, we get divorced because I did something with someone, to we're now getting divorced because I'm happier without you.
Yeah.
And want nothing to do with someone else.
Yeah. And talk about trauma, right? Talk about my dreams being affected by trauma, but yeah.
Yeah, you've always had those dreams. And then all of a sudden you started dreaming about you and I getting divorced, but there's no one else involved.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh, that's very interesting. Divorce was once connected to, oh, there was someone else. And now divorce is just, there's no one else. I'm better without you. You know, so I think it's the concept of choosing to be in the journey with that someone.
So are you saying it's not just putting in the work?
It's not just putting in the work.
But it's putting in the work and
choosing to be with that person. Because I can put in the work.
True.
I can put in the work, never watch pornography ever again.
Yeah.
You know, but at some point, I can choose to not be in this marriage. And like in your dreams, oh, there's no one involved. I never cheated, Jenny. I just feel like my life can be a little better without you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a more daunting experience.
Yeah.
Because there's, you can empathize with someone. Oh, I'm so sorry, that this happened to you. I'm so sorry that you went through the experience of finding out that there was another person involved.
Yeah.
But what do you say when it's like, oh, wait, you guys got divorced, but there's no other person? How do you empathize with that? How do you know what I mean?
True.
That's
No,
hard.
And I think that's the reality of it. It's like,
So that's why I think, like, when it comes to saying I do, I think it's choosing to be in that journey
yeah.
with that someone,
Yeah.
knowing that it's not always going to be pretty.
Yeah. And to preface for all of our listeners, I don't have these dreams all the time. I've had them sporadically here and there, but needless to say, I've had them, meaning there has been some unresolved trauma that I'm still working on based from childhood and whatnot. So
We all have trauma, babe.
yeah. And
I
I
still
think
have
that's the
trauma.
whole point. I think you made a point, babe, and I appreciate you saying that. It's like, I do is not just doing the work. It's doing the work and choosing to still love that person.
Yeah.
It's choosing to say, I'm going to continue to be committed, not by action only or words, but also by
By
literally
living it.
living it and embodying love towards that person. Because you're right. So many marriages, and we know a couple of them, that they just are
end.
married, but
Yeah.
they're not necessarily
They're married.
in love
No.
or
It
practicing
just-
love, or they're just
It goes from, oh, I was in love, to financially it just makes sense.
yeah. So then how, for the sake of our listeners, how can someone continue to, what are some, I guess, like, what would be some steps someone can take who's feeling at the moment in the brink, or some questions they can be asking, I guess would be another way to phrase this, that they can be asking to whether or not continue to say I do. Like, how can we support someone who's like feeling at the moment and they say, oh, Danny or Jenny, I'm struggling right now. Like, it's really hard for me to want to choose to say I do.
I think that would probably be a moment to look into themselves. I don't know. I mean, I think about that all the time. I mean, how many times have I thought about, like, like, what if I do this one last time and then that's it? Like, that's, or what if, like, we do get divorced? Like, what would I do? I know that I wouldn't choose to get involved with anyone else. Because the truth is, I wouldn't want to do this all over again. It's too exhausting. That's the truth. I'm sorry, but that's the truth.
Are you saying that marriage is exhausting?
It's not exhausting, but I mean, it's not easy. That's the truth. It's not easy.
True.
I can't just hit the cruise control button and get to my destination without a scratch.
Yeah.
Like, time and time again, I'm realizing, okay, like, I have to do the work.
Yeah.
I have to be present. I have to put in the effort. I have to. So if this ends, you and I, in my mind, in my heart, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to do this again with someone else, because of the fact that, I've already seen what happens. I've seen the hurt that it brings from time to time because of carelessness. And I've seen the beautiful things that it brings when you really, like, when you're in that moment, when you're in the zone.
Yeah.
But again, that all comes down to what that person sees inside, what that person sees for themselves. If I say, Jenny, if you and I split and, knock on wood, and it happens and I never get involved with someone else again, then our marriage gave me a kind of story that I wasn't too fond of. And then I am internalizing that I assume that because of what we went through, there's a good chance that it'll happen again or worse. You know?
Yeah.
And again, that's just my thought process. That's my assumption. That's not to say that it's going to be that way.
Yeah. No.
You know, because obviously there are people out there that have had the opposite effect where their first marriage was just really bad.
But then their second
And
marriage,
then all of a sudden, you know, they're in their second marriage and it's completely the opposite. So I'm not saying that is the outcome.
So I guess in the question people should be asking themselves when they are in this crossroads of figuring out whether or not to continue to choose to say I do is ask yourself, why did I get married in the first place to this person?
Yeah.
And if you can't answer that question coherently and
Or what was it that you found
what made you fall in love
interesting?
with this
Yeah.
person?
What made you fall in love with this person?
You know,
what was that?
What was it?
Yeah.
What was it that? Why did you choose to get married to this person? Why did you choose this person?
Why did you look at them and say, "This is who I want to spend the rest of my life with"?
Yeah,
Was there a sense of understanding in regard to life with this person? You know, was there a sense of understanding with what would life be like with this person? You know, I mean, those are the things,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. I think,
some of the things at least.
yeah, I think it's asking yourself, why did I first and foremost choose this person, and why did I get married to this person?
Not just that, but also, why did you fall in love?
Yeah, because the question is,
what was
did you
that?
fall in love? Sometimes people have gotten married, unfortunately, because let's be real, we have listeners from all over the world, or so at least.
We're not that famous, babe.
No, that's what our data showing.
That's what the data shows, babe.
Yeah.
We're not
So,
that famous.
We don't know.
We're
if
not
people,
famous at all.
If people have been in, what do you call those marriages, where a parent and another parent come together? What do you call those? Oh my gosh,
rearranged or pre?
Yeah, not
No,
premarital.
not premarital.
An arranged marriage. Yes.
Arrangement.
There we go.
Sorry, I said
Like-
rearranged. Sorry.
You know,
Arranged marriage.
for
sorry.
those people who have been in arranged marriages, so the truth of the matter is, like, we don't know people's stories, our listeners' stories. So you can be in an arranged marriage and be like, well, I was never really in love with this person at the beginning, but then I fell in love with this person, right? Or it could be like, I never was in the first and foremost, I was never in love with this person, and unfortunately, years in, and I'm still not in love with this person. So,
Yeah.
like,
You have both outcomes.
and then you have those people who are like, oh my gosh, we were so young and we fell in love and we got married so young and love is bliss or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And there's that. And it's like, now we're old and we've changed. We're so different. And I don't know if I would have chosen this person now that they've changed, you know? Or you have like, dude, popped pregnant. Forced marriage. Next
Yeah.
step was marriage.
Yeah.
You know, and out of physical and sexual encounters, we got married not because
Not because there was love.
not there was love, or maybe there was, but it was like
But
high school
because-
love, whatever.
yeah.
You know, so like there's all these different stories. So at the end of the day, you do have to ask. Like, I think like asking yourself, why did I get married, is a great way to start, but it may not be applicable to everyone now that I think about it. Because again, some people might have arranged marriages. Some people were forced into marriage. Some people were, circumstances just presented themselves and that's what they did.
Yeah.
You know, some people get married because of immigration status. That's the honest truth. You
Yeah.
know, like that's the whole point. So like, I don't want to dismiss that. I don't want to neglect that. But I think for most of our listeners who are listening, who have not been in a arranged marriage or because of immigration status or whatever, the question you should be asking yourself is, why did I get married?
Yeah.
You know?
That's like the core question to those that the question applies to. You know, when did I get married? Why are you still there?
Yeah.
Why are you still involved? Regardless of what life might look like for you at the moment, if you find yourselves with your spouses in a predicament where you feel like it could be it, or if things are going good and you haven't fought in like 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
You know?
Choosing I do is work and choosing to love the person.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
as
it's,
marriage,
I mean, it makes, I mean, it's just like how, you know, God interacts with us. Like he chooses
to love us despite our filth.
I mean, he knows we're going to screw up. Like that's the thing too. Like he knows. Mm-hmm. It's like, Jenny, I know the day that you're going to say this. I know the day you're going to think this, and I know the day you're going to react like this.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. That's not who I am. That's the opposite of who I am.
Yeah.
But I'm still choosing to love you. Even though I already know all these things are going to happen that do not represent who I am.
Yeah.
Remotely close.
And that's love.
Yeah.
That's unconditional love.
Yeah, that's unconditional love.
I mean, in our human frailty, we're going to fail. That's the whole point. And I think for anyone who's listening to this, that's still listening at this moment, it's like when you signed up to get married, you're not signing up for happily ever after.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest misconception.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're signing up for commitment, recommitment, work. You're signing up for years of like love and pain. Like they both coexist together in a marriage.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Because again, we live in a sinful world.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a sinful world that unfortunately we as human beings don't know how to coexist in a way that it's holy and pure yet.
Yeah.
That's why we need Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole point of I do. In our case, I think the central point of our I do has been Jesus at the core of it. I choose to stay with Danny despite his flaws because of Christ. I choose to because God loves me. And though I may not be a porn addict, though I may not masturbate here and there, I am as flawed as Danny is. And I think that's the other thing. We live in a society where certain sins are greater than other. A liar is as bad as a porn addict. I'm just going to put it out there. You know, someone who curses all the time is as bad as someone who masturbates all the time. Like we can't level up one sin other than the other.
We like to weigh our sins.
Yes. And so like at the end of the day, I am as flawed as Danny is. I may not be struggling with what he struggles with, but I sure do as hell struggle with other things. So at the end of the day, who am I to just point the finger at Danny and say, well, screw you. Like you're always constantly screwing up. I know I screw up too. So I choose you, babe. I choose to say I do because I love you. Even though all of you wants to like say, why the hell do you continue to choose me, Jenny? Like your shame and your guilt wants to completely depart themselves from me. Yeah. But I think that's the whole point. Because I have Jesus in my heart and because I do firmly believe that when we made that vow before the eyes of the Lord, we invited Christ to be the center of our marriage. There is a part of Jesus moving and working in through me because all of my physical being probably wants to be like, yeah, let's call it quits. But it is totally the Lord in control saying, no, I'm going to choose to love you despite all of your brokenness. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I'm going to model that through Jenny. I'm going to show you that you are capable of a happy marriage. I am going to show you that you are capable of being able to be whole and complete. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, I think choosing I do is not just about sticking, what is it called? Like sticking it through?
Sticking it out.
Sticking it out. There we go. You know, it's not about just sticking it out. It's really putting in the work, choosing to love that person, and choosing, I would even add the next third thing that I would choose is choosing to walk with that person in that season. Because I can say I love you, I can say all the nice things, but I have to walk alongside you.
Yeah. If you want to.
Well, yeah, because I'm choosing to love you.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. If you want to. I mean, that has to be a desire that you would like.
Yeah.
You know.
And so, yeah. So
doing,
how does
anything out of, out of force or out of...
No, it doesn't work.
I have to. Yeah. No, you don't have to. Yeah. No one points a gun to your head and says you got to marry this person.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we all have the capacity to make our own decisions.
Yeah.
Whether people like it or not. So it's one of those things where I think being married without even realizing it is a sense of freedom in regard to being able to make your own decisions.
Yeah.
Within that marriage.
Yeah. I love that, within that marriage, because you're right. You can't just make a decision for yourself anymore.
Yeah, it's about doing it within that marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody tells you what to do or how to,
Yeah.
Every marriage is different. Every marriage looks different. What works for you and I won't necessarily work for the next couple. And that's just how it is. So it's, having that sense of freedom to be able to make the right decisions coming from the heart within that marriage.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So at the end of the day, to go back to your question is...
How do you still say I do even after all the mishaps and dark moments? I think it just comes down to having the heart to say yes and to continue.
Putting in the work.
Putting in the work and walking in the journey.
Yeah, and walking in the journey. So that's how you choose I do. I mean, you invite the Holy Spirit in.
Yeah.
Because where you are weak, He is strong. That's what Scripture says. Mm-hmm. And again, you choose to forgive.
Yeah.
You have to choose to forgive.
And forget, at least to try.
And and what I mean by what Danny means forget is, let me make this very, very clear. I choose not to bring it up. I can't forget what my husband does to me, and he can't forget what I do to him. But
or maybe you can, babe.
But
I mean, if God raised people from the dead,
you're choosing not to relive that moment. Because there is marriages where the woman's constantly, well, you did this. Yeah. Remember this. So ladies, I'm here talking to you now.
You just said it right now. Remember this.
Yeah.
It's you choosing to still remember it shows it to some extent you still hold on to it. That's why
well, I think I mean this is probably another conversation because we're in too deep already, but I'm just saying. For
me,
you really forget?
Can you really forget?
Can you forget all the pain your mom did to you?
No, I can't. But if I choose to continue to remember,
there we go.
Then I feel that it continues to follow me.
Correct.
So I have to believe. Mm-hmm. Again, this is only for myself.
You don't hold it against that person anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's the phrase we should use.
Oh, okay.
Not hold it. I don't hold Danny's mistakes against him anymore.
Right, there you go.
That's what I'm choosing to do when I say I do.
Maybe it could be man's version of forgetting.
Yeah. Yeah. Because forget means you literally don't recall anything. And hey, God can totally do that. I'm not saying He can't.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the desire, then I believe that God can do it.
Yes, but...
Question is, do you want to forget?
True. And again, this is a whole different conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But I think...
I'll leave you with that itch. Scratch it as much as you can.
But I think it's the most important thing to remember is I'm not going to withhold my spouse's mistakes.
Yeah.
Because here I am talking about Danny making mistakes. The truth of the matter is women have also made various and countless mistakes. A lot of times... we think that only men can be addicted to pornography, and
so can women.
That's the truth. So no matter
Hell
what,
yeah.
No matter what, It's choosing to not hold any grudges against our spouses, choosing to say, I love you, choosing to do the work. For the one who committed the fault, choosing to put in the work so that trust can be regained. And yeah, and vice versa. So, anything else?
No.
All right, we'll leave you with this, man.
Yeah.
So, choosing I do. Yeah. We hope and pray that you choose I do. And if you're really going through a really hard, dark, difficult moment in your life,
we are very sorry.
Yeah.
That is not the Lord's intention or desire for you and your marriage.
Yes.
And if this, is something that God ordained, then we have to believe that it will be a triumphant story.
Amen.
And not a disaster one.
Yeah. Amen.
So, thank you guys. We love you guys. Thank you for taking the time to listen into this itty bitty podcast. We hope to catch you on the next one. Have a good week. Have a good... Hey guys, thank you so much again for listening to the episode and for tuning in to the podcast. Again, I hope that the episodes and the podcast are encouraging. I hope that it brings you guys new light, new perspective, a new approach to the marriages, to relationships. We hope that it gives you guys the right tools to be able to move forward and how it fits best for you.
Yeah, and if you have any questions or you want more details, just go ahead and follow us on Instagram at our Instagram handle, which is Danny and Jenny, or email us at contact@dannyandjenny.com. We look forward to
hearing from you.
Yeah, and to the next episode.
Awesome.
All right.
Take care.
Adios.